there are not many people who are doing what you're doing now, and like people just want to focus on the famous, the big ones. But I feel like I think you've mentioned earlier that everyone's got a testimony. It doesn't mean that you have to be this celebrity or this big personality for your story or testimony to matter. Like everyone's gone through certain things, and I feel like personally it's more about how someone else can relate to your story. So it doesn't matter that I'm famous or not famous. It matters that someone who's going through what I went through can get inspired by,
and then doesn't feel alone.
Exactly.
So I think a lot of the time we seem to think that we're the only ones going through what we're going through.
Exactly.
But then I can almost guarantee that's never the case.
That's never the case, especially because I started hosting the men's Bible study at my church, and when we just gather and talk about it, just made me realize that we are all going through the same thing as men. We'll either be it lost or whatever it is. We all go through the same process, and our shyness in talking about it does not help because we think they won't understand, or
it's just me.
It's just me.
Yeah.
But when you talk about it, then you realize actually a lot of people are going through the same thing. So yeah, I feel like that's why testimonies and sharing our stories is very essential.
It's that weird balance, because me and you, for example, are very unique. But at the same time, the more we talk, the more we find out we're very similar.
Exactly. Like I feel like this is why the Bible says that there's nothing new under the sun. Because we think we're so unique, our issues are so so brand new, but at the end of the day, we're like, actually, a lot of people are going through what I'm going through, so I'm not that unique in my in the fact that I have in the fact that I'm going through stuff. Everyone goes through stuff, so
everyone.
Yeah, it's just about being brave and open enough to basically talk about them and hoping that your testimony inspires others. So,
also inspiring yourself as well.
Exactly, because when you talk about it, it kind of puts into perspective how far you've come, and it kind of makes you realize, how far God has brought you from where you used to be to where you are now. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, Frankie,
yes,
welcome.
Thank you so much. Man. It's nice to be here finally. I must admit, I was a bit nervous, but I feel I'm good. God is in control. God is in control. So, this is for the greater good. So yeah.
So it says Frankie in first person. This is actually our first time meeting.
It is our first. Honestly, I know. For some reason, it feels like I've met you before. I don't know why. No, but this is our first time. Yes, and Francis is his name.
Francis.
I just chose Frankie for my Instagram to appear cool, but yeah, Francis. And my best friend calls me Franco. So I've had Frankie, Franny, Francis, all
of them.
So I answer to all of them.
Where's the accent from?
Nigeria. Yeah.
What tribe? Yoruba?
I'm not Yoruba. I'm from a small southern tribe called Efik. So we share the same border with Cameroon. So I'm on the southern part of the country.
So do you speak French then as well? Or?
No, we don't speak French. We don't speak French. I think English is like the second language after our native language, which is also called Efik. So, yeah.
So were you born?
No, I was born in Nigeria, actually. I was there till I was 17. Then I came over to the UK in 2008. Okay. So it's, I think, almost 15 years now. So, wow, that's a long time. Wow. Yeah. So since then, it's been one heck of a journey. So, yeah.
So Francis,
yes,
born in Nigeria,
yes,
come over in 2008.
Yeah.
How did you introduce yourself? So I don't know you.
Yes.
Other people watching, how would you introduce yourself in however you see fit?
So I would say that how do I introduce myself? That's a very good. So in terms of my job, I'm a paralegal. I work in a law firm, and I'm here in the UK with my mom and my two sisters, and I love singing. Singing is one of my strongest passions. I feel like it's a gift God gives me to kind of glorify Him. So singing is what I love to do. In as much as I kind of lost the passion a bit in terms of, because it was so difficult recording, and I don't know how to mix. I don't know how to produce beats and stuff like that. So making a song is very difficult, because then I have to pay people to make the beat for me. I have to pay them to mix it, and this goes into like hundreds. of pounds, and it's just a very expensive enterprise. And I can't play any instrument. I wish I was able to play an instrument, even a piano, because it would be easy for me to just make like a melody and then just sing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I love singing. And ever since I came to Christ, which we're gonna get into shortly, I've I've just felt the push to basically utilize my talent more in praising God as much as so that's why I try to I'm sure you know Esther because you've so
Yeah.
every time Esther gets in touch with me saying do you wanna join, I'm like, yes, please put me on. So she sometimes invites me to be her backing vocals on when she's leading praise and worship, and I always jump at that opportunity because any opportunity to just use my gift to glorify God, I will take advantage of it. It doesn't matter that I'm the backing vocal lead, as long as I'm glorifying God, that's all that matters. So yeah, I think that's a bit.
I was not expecting you to say singing. I thought your first thing would have been gym.
Everyone says that. Everyone says that. Once they see me, they're like, "Yeah, you love gym." I'm like, "Yeah, I love." I feel like it's music then gym. Gym is like my
Okay.
It's like my second favorite thing to do. But I would actually give up going to the gym if there was like a gig where I had to sing. I would be like, okay, I can go to the gym some other time, because I feel like whatever we do in service to God should come first in our lives over service to ourselves. So I feel like the gym is service to myself, but singing is service to God. So that will always come first.
So that's you sort of answered my next question. I was gonna ask. So sort of singing is sort of a spiritual gift, and then the gym is sort of like your physical.
My
sort
own,
of
yeah,
hobby.
exactly. My own thing. Singing is God's thing. Gym is my own thing.
So in the paralegal, is that just job, or is there passion there for the paralegal aspect, or is that just work?
It's just a job, Like I feel like my passion lies more in like with music. I love doing music. I love singing. I love just everything music. I do love, but I mean I don't hate my job. I love it because I did when I went to uni, I did the area of law I'm practicing now as my third year module.
Okay.
And I really liked it, so I went into it. I like it, but it's I don't live and breathe like being a paralegal. It's
In and out.
exactly. I don't wake up in the morning thinking, God, thank you so much for. I mean, I'm thankful for my job.
Yeah,
but
not for
it's not like my destiny. My purpose in life to be that. I feel like I'm made for more.
Do you feel like you know what that destiny is yet, or are you still sort of navigating?
I feel like I have an idea. I feel like I'm at the beginning stages of getting there. I know what God has in store for me, and I know that the processes He's taking me through now is in preparation for what's about to come. So it's all about me being obedient and going through the small beginnings and not despising it, as the Bible says. So yeah, so we are at this stage at the small beginnings, at the foundation level, and God is just using that to prepare me for
Okay.
for what's to come.
What's to come?
Yeah, so I'm excited for what's to come.
So for what's to come compared to where you've been, that's it. I think that's where the main topic of this conversation.
That is honestly that is indeed, because like I feel like I've come through so much, and it was at the beginning of this month where I felt the Holy Spirit just convict me strongly about sharing my testimony, because I have given like little snippets of my testimony on Instagram, like with like videos and stuff, but I feel like it's just bits. I've not really encapsulated everything. So when I saw your video, I thought this could be an opportunity for me to do that. So I said, yeah, I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna lie, there were times where I thought, am I really ready for this? But I feel like, what's the worst that could happen, man? Like it's all for the glory of God. I feel like once we testify, we are giving glory to God for what He's saved us from. So there's no need to be embarrassed or shy about what God has done in your life, So yeah.
And I think in part, as we discussed earlier, I think in part it's somewhat selfish.
It is.
Because we put how we feel over the potential sort of service it could be to other people.
Exactly. Because like what I've come to realize is that it's not about us. It's about what God is going to do through us. You know, we are Christians to serve others, to serve the kingdom of God, not to serve ourselves. So in as much as we will have to do things that are uncomfortable, but we have to realize that we have to go through that uncomfortability to give God the glory. Because before I came to Christ, I was most insecure about how I speak. I hated how I sounded so much. I felt like I sounded very nasal, and I just hated how I spoke. But then I came to God, and then God just made me realize that actually my voice is what He wants to use to basically do what He
The
wants to
very
do.
thing that you dislike.
Exactly.
The very thing that...
Yeah, and I feel like this is what the enemy does. Like the enemy sees our gifts, and he'll try to make you insecure about that gift, so that you ignore it and then just let it die out. So I would tell anyone, if what is the one thing that you're most insecure about, try to bring it before God, and you'll see that that's the one thing that God has put in you to basically, help others. So yeah.
So that's, I guess, that insecurity with the voice. Is that when you came to the UK? Like, was that, for example, you grew up in Nigeria,
Yes.
and then come to the UK,
Yeah.
and now all of a sudden you're in a different country, different
Exactly.
foreign accent. Is
Yes.
that where the insecurity was birthed from?
I think so, yes, because English isn't a native language where I come from. I'm coming into the UK at 17, and then hearing people speak, and you're like, okay, I don't speak. And it's funny because when I wanted to join college, and I was looking through through the options of what courses to do, one of the teachers that said, "Oh, do you want to take an English course to help you, for like a year to help you?" And I was like, I just felt it was a waste of time. I'm like, I can learn in the process of doing something else, instead of just devoting one whole year to like. So I said no. So I just learned English from like movies and like people, friends from college, just interacting. So yeah. So I felt like the insecurity kind of stemmed from there, because I realized that I didn't sound like everyone else sounded. There was an accent. I feel like the accent's kind of balanced itself out now, but when I first came, it was something else. So I felt like all of that kind of made me very insecure about my voice. But I thank God, because I'm not in that space anymore. So
And you came at quite like a late time, because a lot of people come with that when they're young.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's sort of they're still sort of developing their voice and their accent. But you came when you're basically almost an adult.
17, like coming in at 17 was a very difficult time, because I had to start all over again in terms of making friends. It's almost like starting life all over again, and it was very difficult because life was different. The people were different. The sense of humor was different. Everything was different. The weather was different. I mean, it was a lot to take in, and I was very overwhelmed. So, but with time, I just kind of, and there's some things I'm still getting used to even after almost 15 years. So I feel like life is just like a constant process of, it's a journey. So yeah.
Yeah. So what's been, I guess, the most difficult part? Maybe adjustment or comparison?
I feel like it's just a sense of humor. For me, it was the sense of humor. Like, I found that people didn't find some things I said funny, and back home people would be rolling on the floor laughing. So I just thought to myself, okay, that's different. And sometimes they would tell me something, tell me a joke, and expect me to laugh, and I'm like, okay, that wasn't very funny. So I felt like that's one thing that took me a while to get used to. So yeah, but I would say definitely sense of humor. It's very different.
Because you come across as very like a very high energy, sort of bubbly character. So I
tried to be.
that was
Yeah, exactly. So just coming from an environment where you are this bubbly character and everyone just gravitates towards you, to an environment where everyone's like, what is he talking about? It was kind of like, oh yeah.
And I guess the accent and the voice didn't help.
Exactly. Yeah. So all of that but I felt like I had to go through all of that to get to where I am today, because I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't. Like, the things I have learned about interacting with people, social cues, all of that stuff, I learned from going through that process. So yeah.
So in the 15 years, what's happened to find, if you can give like I guess the key markers or the key events that's happened in the past 15 years, even if it starts before that, when you're in Nigeria?
I would say learning how to drive. Yeah, because I didn't think I would ever drive for some reason. I don't know why. But when I was 20, I think I was 23 when I started driving, and that was a big deal for me. That was one thing I did that was so different from everything else I had done before in terms of like college, university, all of that. So driving was a big thing for me. Driving was a big thing for me, and like one big thing that changed for me was because back then when I was in Nigeria, I wasn't exposed to the internet as I was when I first came into the UK. So just coming into the UK and being exposed to the internet, and I'm like, wow. And there were no safeguards. I was just like, whew. So there was a lot I was exposed to in over the internet that I wasn't ready for. Like I was um this was during the days of MSN. And I was just like meeting people online and like going on the internet and just I was going on websites that I thought, wow, okay, I would never get like have access to sites like this back home, and it was just a very overwhelming experience because I was introduced to so much all at once, and I was kind of carried away with that thrill, and it just kind of led me down this rabbit hole of like things I had been through before God saved me from all of them back in January of last year. So yeah, I would say the internet was the main life changer for me when moving to the UK. So yeah.
Fair enough. So for anyone listening to this, it's only been about maybe, let's say, 10 minutes.
Yes.
But you've already said God saved me about 4 or 5 times.
Oh,
And that's
right,
the theme
right,
of everything that you've been
right,
saying.
right.
And for those who don't know, this is the first episode in which someone, in this case you, has actually mentioned us to me to be on the episode. And you mentioned to me your request is that you've got a story to tell, you've got
Yes.
a testimony.
Yes.
So I'm very intrigued to hear what that testimony is and where it starts from.
Yeah. I mean, as I said earlier, just being exposed to the internet at such a young age, I was going on, like websites that I shouldn't be on. I'm not sure if I can say what websites.
Be free, be free.
Excuse me. So I was like exposed to like porn, going on porn websites, and there were no safeguards, no nothing, and I was just like exposed to this world, and I kind of got lost in it as well. There was a thrill that came from it as well, and I was like, whoa, and there was a thrill that come from that. There was an adrenaline that came from that secrecy. Oh, this is a thing it's my own personal thing that no one else knows that I'm doing, and it's so cool, it's so fun. And then I started talking to people on MSN. I was meeting people. I was catfished once by so, like a lot happened during that time, and I felt like just being exposed to porn at such an early age kind of led me down this rabbit hole of like promiscuity, and just like I was lost in this life of promiscuity, and I was, as a result, I was caught up in so many cycles of sin that I was so depressed, I was so anxious as a result. But I just didn't know how to break myself out of these cycles, because like everyone else was kind of normalizing being addicted to porn, being anxious, being depressed. It was kind of like, it's almost like everyone's depressed. So it's kind of like the way life is, seasonal depression. Everyone's like, oh yeah, of course. It became so normalized. So I kind of couldn't do anything much about it, because I just resigned to the fact that this is how life is.
This is just how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. So but it was a tough few years before God saved me. So I mean, as you said, I reached out to you because I felt like sharing my testimony, where I used to be, where I am now, would inspire many people who are going through the same thing as well, to actually draw hope and draw inspiration from this and think to themselves, actually, if he could make it, if God could save him from all these things that I'm also going through, then he can save me too. So I felt like that's why I was led to basically do this. So yeah.
So at the time you were having these like depressive thoughts and these feelings, did you know at the time it was related to the pornography and stuff?
I didn't.
You didn't.
I didn't because I just thought that pornography was normal. Like all of my friends said, yeah, I watch it too, and yeah, they were like, and they were like even more addicted to it than I was, you know, and they would brag about watching it for hours, especially at college, and I thought to myself, okay, I don't spend hours watching it, so I'm not, you know, as bad, or my situation is not as bad as theirs is. So and that was the that was the main. I felt like that was the main thing that kind of kept me stuck in that cycle, because in as much as something in me was um, resisting resisting my comfortability with pornography, but because I saw everyone else accepting it and being like, yeah, it's cool, it's fine, I kind of didn't do anything about it, basically. So yeah,
So how long did that conflict go on for?
it went on for a good number of years, for more than 10 years. For more than 10 years, since I was 17 to when I was I think 30. Yeah, it went on for quite a long time, and it got to a point where, I mean, obviously porn leads to masturbation, and it got to a point where I had to like indulge every night before, like I couldn't sleep unless I indulged in doing that. And honestly, I was so depressed because now I know about dopamine levels, and at that back then I didn't know anything about it. I did not know that me getting involved in all of this was affecting my dopamine levels, how happy I was, how I was responding to, you know, how I was interacting with people, my socials. Like it just affected every aspect of my life. My anxiety, my depression, all stemmed. The root cause of it was porn and masturbation, and I felt like I I just didn't know what to do because I didn't talk to anyone about it. And the people I spoke to were my friends who were also, and they were like, yeah, that's cool, that's fine, that's how it, you know, that's life. Everyone's depressed, everyone loves porn. There's nothing wrong with it. Da, da, da. So I was like, okay. So I just willingly, you know, remained in that sunken place for so long, and that was a very terrible, terrible time in my life. Yeah. So.
So that environment is basically what kept you there.
Yeah. That environment was what kept me there, and I did not even think about, you know, sharing this or talking about it with my mom, because I did not think she would understand about any of this, you know, or my sisters or anyone. And like I was so it led me to live such a promiscuous life that I was the most promiscuous of all of my friends. I enjoyed, you know, you know, hooking up with someone and then bragging to them about it, and they were like, oh wow, and they kind of like looked up to me as a result, and I kind of liked that attention, because I would come back and tell them all that happened, and they'd be like, oh gosh, you know, that is so cool, that is, I want to be like you, I want to do the things you're doing. And that kind of made me want to do more, of meet people more, do more stuff with them, because it kind of gave me, doing that kind of made me relevant. It gave me that attention I wanted. It made me feel important to my group of friends at the time. So yeah, and I feel like the main thing God saved me from was the promiscuity, was like the hooking up with people, and now I know that it all came from a place of trying to seek validation, trying to get attention from people, trying to be liked, trying to be, you know, because as a kid, I grew up with my stepdad, and he was very abusive, and nothing I did was good enough for him. So I felt like I kind of grew up a bit with that.
Emptiness, absence of.
Exactly. So and I started finding that in people that I was meeting and hooking up with, because they made me feel like I was the best thing in the world to them at that moment that I was with them, and I kind of liked that, you know, what I was getting from that. You know, it made me feel relevant. It made me feel important. It made me feel just the fact that someone valued me or that I was so important to someone at that moment in time the the drug basically that kept me wanting more and wanting more.
Because as you were talking, I was thinking it sounds like loneliness in the sense of you're holding on to these people, not because I feel like somewhere you knew it wasn't good for you, but you held on because of for the sake of friends.
Yes.
So I guess it wasn't so much loneliness, but again, sort of there's more the validation.
Yeah, and I was doing this expecting to get some kind of comfort and happiness from meeting these people, but I still wasn't happy. Still was very sad.
So even amidst all the attention and
yeah, and I was asking myself, why am I still not happy? Like when I'm with them, I'm happy, I'm good, but once I leave them, I just go back to, and it just got worse when I joined Tinder, because I came to a point in my life where I thought, you know what, I want to settle down. I want to find someone so that I can stop meeting all of these people. And I thought to myself, you know what, Tinder's the best place for that. And it wasn't. Tinder was the complete opposite. So I was basically matching with people I didn't think in a million years that I would match with. And I was meeting them. And I just got lost in that, that world of just meeting people I never thought I would be able to meet. And it got so crazy because that, how do I describe it? That desire to want to settle with one person just went away from me, just disappeared completely. Because when I met someone, and even in as much as we got along really well, the idea that I could possibly meet someone else who I matched with better by just, that scrolling spirit was just like very strong.
Because there was someone else.
There's always someone else, and it's like, what if the next person is much better? What if the next? And that just kept me in this loop, this cycle of like hooking up with people, meeting people, and it was really, really terrible. Yeah. So yeah.
So basically, in thinking that Tinder would help you, just made everything worse.
Tinder just made everything worse. And during COVID, I discovered TikTok, and
the wonder of TikTok.
and I was scrolling through it, and I saw people, just doing the bare minimum and getting like thousands of like likes and stuff. I'm thinking, okay, like, because at that time I was gymming as well, and I thought, well, I've got a better body than they do, so if I do what they're doing, I could possibly get more views and likes. And so I started posting content, thirst-trapping content on TikTok, like with my top off, just dancing or doing whatever. And it got traction. Like I was waking up to like thousands of likes on my videos. And I was like, oh wow. It just amazed me at how easy it was to get this dislikes and views, and for someone who already has an issue with attention, wanting people to like them, I just all
of it overnight.
Exactly. I just like dived in headfirst into that TikTok world, and I just found myself pushing the boundaries every time I was making videos. I had to be more lustful. I had to be more,
provocative, more everything.
More provocative, more lustful, wear as little clothing as possible. On TikTok, I had a lot of videos that had millions of views and like hundreds of thousands of likes. And even on Instagram as well, I was posting reels on Instagram, and I was getting hundreds of thousands of likes. And I was so big on social media that I would go to clubs and people would recognize me. I would go to the gym and people would recognize me. I would even walk on the street and people would recognize me. There was once I went to a petrol station and the guy that was selling said, "Are you on TikTok?" I'm like, oh my goodness. And there was, and I felt like that was when the seed of conviction started getting planted, because when I was posting these videos, I was kind of disassociating myself from who that person was on the internet. I'm like, I am me. Whatever version of me is
It's just for
online
social media.
is that doesn't exist in real life. But when
People associated you with that person.
people were like, you are that guy in real, they were telling me in real life, you are that person. So I was kind of forced to reconcile between the two, that it's actually me. I can't just say that's not me. It's a I actually created like an alter ego. I was like, that is someone else, that is not me. But the fact that people were like, no, that is you. You on TikTok, I've seen you. That just made me realize, well, actually, I am being known here, and being known for the wrong reasons. And that was a very, very scary time in my life, because I got lost in this need for constant attention, which I was getting. But then again, I didn't want to be associated with that. So there was this conflict in me, because in real life I was this humble, nice, kind. But when you go on my TikTok, you're seeing me doing all of this stuff. You're like, who is this guy? Like, it's a complete opposite. And then so, and also, as I was getting all of these millions of views online on my videos, someone messaged me on Instagram and told me, well, I've noticed that you're getting a lot of traction on your social media. Have you ever thought of like joining OnlyFans? Because with all of these people that are liking, there was a video of mine that got like almost 200,000 likes on Instagram. And then he said to me, all of these likes, translate that into like £19 a month, and you could make a lot of money. So coming from a Christian background, I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. That is because that's basically being a sex worker, and it's one thing posting thirst trapping stuff online. It's a different thing actually being a sex worker. So I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. But at that time, I was struggling at work because of the anxiety and the depression. I wasn't doing very well at work, and I just wanted to escape from that. So I thought to myself, what else can I do? So basically, what source of income can I get for myself so that I'm not entirely reliant on my job? I just wanted something that would provide me with the escape I wanted. I don't want to work anymore, so I need something else that will provide me with the job, provide me with the money I need to survive. So I decided to join OnlyFans. And it was, at first I made once I created the account and linked my bank details and everything, I kind of paused for like a few days to really think to myself, is this really, like, has it come to this? So yeah, I started posting content on there, and it was a very, and there were some times where when I created content, and as I was editing to post this content, I would just cry. I was crying, and I didn't know why I was crying. But I feel like that was just
literal tears.
Yeah, literal tears. Like, I felt like that was just my spirit just being so grieved by how low I had let myself go. And I feel like one of the main turning points for me came from when I was off work one day, and I decided to go to the gym early. And I came out of the gym, and I was walking home. This was around 1 p.m. And as I was walking home, I walked past a bus stop, and I saw these little kids from high school, just walking past. And one of them kept looking at me and waved at me and was laughing. And I thought to myself, I don't know this kid. I've never met this kid before. So why? And I could see that he knows me, but I don't know him. So as I was walking home, I was just thinking about it, and I realized that it's possible that he knows me from TikTok. He knows me, and the fact that someone so young was exposed to the stuff I was posting on TikTok and on Instagram just kind of really convicted me. Because in my mind, I just assumed, okay, everyone watching this is a grown-up adult, But there are lots of kids on TikTok, and they're being exposed to this stuff as well. So that came with a great deal of conviction. Like, wow, what is this? Like, what am I doing? Because at first I was thinking, I'm not harming anyone, I'm just, making myself happy, getting the attention I want, and there's no harm in it. But just having that interaction with that little kid just made me realize, wow, this is a lot more serious than I convinced myself to believe. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot to unpack there, but yeah. Yeah. I feel like I just had to give like a summary of everything.
That's a summary.
No, that's a summary, man, because like I feel like I've been through a lot. Like I've done so many things. I've been to so many places that it's a miracle. Like if I went into detail about every single thing, people would think, how is this guy sat here alive? Like, how is it possible? Because I was hooking up with so many people that I started getting sick, and it's not because there was anything wrong with me, but like it's just because my sins had piled up so much. Because there's a verse in the Bible where Jesus healed someone by saying your sins have been forgiven, and they got up and started walking again. So Jesus did not tell them, oh, you are healed of your infirmity. He just said your sins have been forgiven, which meant that it was their sin that was the cause of
their sickness.
So this life of sin that I was living was the cause of my sickness. I'm someone that can go for 3 years without getting a cold, but it got to a point where I was getting sick every 3 or 4 weeks. Like my nose would be running, and my mom would be like, "What's going on with you? Like, it's unlike you to be sick so frequently." And I did not have an explanation, but I just knew deep down that it was because of the life I was living. Like I could feel the light of life in me dimming gradually, because I was, meeting people. Like meeting people, there's a very deep spiritual connection when you hook up with someone. So there's soul ties being created. There's a lot of that going on. So I did not know that at the time. I just thought it's fun and all of this. And but I was getting so sick. I was getting sick every 3 or 4 weeks, and I could feel life just being drained from me. And thankfully, by God's grace, he interceded before it got worse. Because if I had continued 2 months after, like 2 months from the time God saved me, if I had kept going where I was going, I would have been dead. I would have literally been gone, because I could feel death. Like I could feel death overtaking me slowly, and I just didn't know how to stop. I knew I had to stop what I was doing, but I was so deep into it that I didn't know how to stop. I wanted to stop, but I just didn't know how to. So I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to keep going. So if not for God interceding when he did, I wouldn't be here right now, because I would have been long gone. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was that? Because I think after 17, when you came, I think we lost sort of like the time period, like the time frames.
Mm-hmm.
So when did each of those sort of phases happen?
Okay, so when I first came in, I went on the internet. I was meeting people. Well, I was chatting to people on MSN, and then I was going on these porn websites, and I was spending time on there. I was there every night, and then after a while, watching it, I was like, actually, I want to not just watch it. I want to experience it, and that was the open door to basically meeting people, wanting to meet people. And then when I first started meeting people was when I realized, actually, meeting these people is giving me the contentment. It's giving me the illusion of, being wanted or being treasured or being, because when you meet people, they make you feel like, oh gosh, you are like the best thing ever. And just that momentary appreciation and love got me hooked into wanting to meet more people.
So what age was this then?
I would say 2021.
Yeah.
2021. And I was just meeting people. And at first, it wasn't for... the first few times I started meeting people, it wasn't for anything sexual. Like we just met, we just talked, and but it just kind of, because I was kind of warming myself into it. I just wasn't comfortable just going straight into anything with anyone, because I was still treading. This was a new territory for me. But after a while, I started, hooking up with people, and it was just the ease there was to meeting people. When you get dating apps and stuff like that, just the convenience in like meeting people.
Yeah.
It was so easy for me. I don't know why it was so easy for me. I wish it was a bit more difficult, but it was always like I would always get anyone I wanted. And I felt like that gave me this false sense of power that made me just kept, doing it more. I always got whoever I wanted. And I always knew what to say. I always knew how to get into people's head to almost make them obsessed with me, to make them want me a lot, like make them want me so much or think that I'm the best thing that ever happened to them. And all of this, now I know that it was the enemy working through me to also keep other people in bondage of, in cycles of addiction, of obsession, of lust, of all of that. But at that moment, I thought it was just me. I thought it was me being, being this architect of,
Character and
exactly.
yeah.
So I just kind of got lost in that. So since then, I've just been meeting people, hooking up with people, and it also gave me an escape from work, which I found very depressing. So just meeting people kind of provided an escape to all of that.
What were you doing at the time?
I was what was I doing? I was doing what I'm doing now, but on a junior level.
Okay.
But at the time, because I wasn't used to, the whole idea of my job, I kind of struggled a bit. And I was just looking for an escape to that. And the only escape that was available to me was that, because it was so easily accessible. It was like the complete opposite. Like at my job, I was struggling. But in this world, I wasn't. I was thriving. So it was like I had to do more of this to compensate for this. So I felt like that also led me deeper into that promiscuity and just, yeah.
So, and what age did the blowing up on social media and the OnlyFans sort of come?
So this was when I was, COVID happened in 2020.
Okay.
I'm 32 now. So I would say 28.
20, yeah.
28 was when I joined TikTok. So I was in TikTok for a while, and I was doing so well on there, and eventually moved also to Instagram, and I was doing so well on there. And it was actually on Instagram that someone messaged me saying,
OnlyFans.
Yeah, you should consider OnlyFans. So yeah, that's when. So after Instagram was when I joined OnlyFans, and it was good. I did not have to do much on OnlyFans because I had the body, so that kind of made up for most of it. But I was making money on there. It was good, and but as I said, there were times where I was creating content, and I could, like, tears were coming out of my eyes from me editing these videos. Like it wasn't me. Who I saw in those content I was creating wasn't me. It was more of I'm not sure if you've seen the movie Get Out. Yeah, of the sunken place. Yeah. It was like me in the sunken place. Like when I watched those content, it was me in the sunken place. It was me in chains.
And you still post it?
And I still posted it because my desire for attention
was that great?
Superseded everything else. Even if everything else, it superseded everything, including things that were good for me. Things that were essential, things that promoted my self-worth and value, that didn't matter. Because what mattered at the time was I need people to like me. I need to be validated. I need people to... Because I was getting all of that by posting this stuff. I was getting people willing to give me their life savings only if I would meet them, and even people that were married were reaching out to me as well. And I just got lost in the power I thought I had by being able to, manipulate these people into being so obsessed with me. And I feel like this is the trend that goes on in social media. Like everyone that has an OnlyFans account has to get people obsessed with them. Like has to get their followers obsessed with them for them to keep making monthly payments to that service. Like you have to make them feel like they have a chance with you. You have to make them feel like, you almost like them when in reality you don't care about them at all. But you have to give them that false sense of belonging.
Like exclusivity, sort of.
Exactly, to make them keep coming back. And I was doing that. And I was successful at doing that. Things were going well, but it just got to a point where I just couldn't bring myself to doing that anymore. So I closed down my OnlyFans account after about 3 or 4 months.
And this was after like the kids sort of recognized you.
Yeah. So I just closed down the account because I just couldn't bring myself to keep doing that anymore. It just wasn't worth it. The money was good, but I was losing my self-worth in the process, and I just realized, it's not worth it. So yeah, I stopped.
We'll get to the transformation in a bit, but what I noticed is you mentioned very briefly that you actually grew up in a Christian household.
Yeah.
So how was all of this happening and that sort of growing up in that Christian house and that environment? How was that conflict inside?
There was a lot of conflict. Like even when I talked about me crying while I was making this content, that was the Christian conviction I had from my upbringing. That was because I feel like when you grow up in a Christian household, in as much as you are not Christian, there's still that.
Yeah.
There's still that godliness in you that your parents or your grandma, whatever, imprinted in you. And that's always going to intercede for you, even when you are not fully in God. So, and I feel like that was interceding for me to some extent because I would be stubborn and do things I know I shouldn't be doing, but eventually I would always come out of it. Like with OnlyFans, I stopped doing that because I was greatly convicted, even though I wasn't a full-fledged Christian at the time. So it was difficult. It was difficult because this is the main reason why I decided to disassociate myself from who I was online, because I just wanted to maintain that image of, okay, I'm still a good guy. I still hold some Christian values. I'm not as, what I'm posting online that's not me. That's just someone else, that's an alter ego. That is the lustful part of me that does not encapsulate who I am as a whole, as Francis. And I was just making up these excuses in my mind to kind of
continue
justify what I was doing. And that was really bad. And I'm thankful that people recognize me in real life at clubs, at all of these places, because it made me realize actually I cannot escape.
You can't separate the two.
I can't separate the two. I am the same person. I have to own up. That's when I started taking accountability for the fact that, this is me. I can't run away from it. I have to own up to it. And that line became very blurred when people started, associating me with.
So at the time of those convictions, did you know it was God, or did you attribute it to God, or was it just some unknown sort of feeling that this is wrong?
I knew it was God. I always knew. Like, as a kid, I was very close to God. Like, as a kid, I knew that God had chosen me for something special. I knew that God had put me in my family for a purpose. I knew all of this. But I felt like just growing up, as you grow, your innocence gets chipped away. And especially being exposed to the internet as well, and all of this, addiction to pornography, to masturbation, all of that just kind of overtook everything else godly in me. And I kind of got lost. It's almost like the snowball effect, you just snowball until you can't stop, and the ball keeps rolling. I knew I had to stop, but I just didn't know how to stop. It was easier to just do what I was doing than trying to stop, because when I tried to stop, I wasn't able to, because I was trying to do it myself instead of asking God to help me. And I felt God calling me to change. I felt God calling me to repent and come to Him. But I was so addicted to that gratification I got from posting the stuff I was posting, from hooking up with these people I never thought I never thought would look at me twice if they saw me on the street. And I just kind of got lost in all of that. And I thought to myself, if I come to God, I have to let go of all of this stuff. And this stuff makes me feel good. It makes me feel so important. It makes me feel on top of the world, because like these people are basically like some of them treated me like a god, like I was a celebrity, like I was this thing that even when they messaged me and I responded, they'd be like, I can't believe you've responded. And I was like, wow, like for someone who's not used to that, who comes from a background of, being belittled, being abused, being, made to feel like they're nothing, and to receive that kind of praise, you're like, wow, I want more of this, and I was doing all I could do to keep getting more of that. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We've got about 15, 20 minutes left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of me doesn't even want to start about the transformation, because it's going to be a whole.
I know. I mean, I feel like the transformation is a shorter story than
Really?
Me. I don't know.
Go ahead then.
So my sister first came to Christ in January of 2023.
Okay.
And then when she came to Christ, I could feel that I was going to be a target, because I knew that God had been calling me for so long and I was ignoring it. And now God has, managed to get hold of my sister, who's in the same household as me. And I just knew that I was going to be next. I just knew. It was like that conviction in me was like,
Yep.
you're next.
My turn.
It's done. So I can remember one day I came out of the gym and I just felt an overwhelming sense of peace come over me. And I was just thanking God. I was just thanking God for life. I was thanking God for the air, thanking God for the people around me. And I don't know why I was this way. And then
Randomly?
Just randomly, out of nowhere. And I did not know why. And then I went home and my sister sat me down and said, I've got a message for you from God. I'm like, okay, tell me. And then she told me the message. Because before this, the excuse I always had in my mind for not going to God was, I have time, I'm just 30. I'll come to God when I'm 50. In the meantime, I'm just going to live my life and enjoy. And the first thing my sister told me was, God sent me a message. God has given me a message for you. And the message is that you think you have time, but you don't. And that was a direct response to the excuse I've always been coming up with. And as she was telling me this, I felt such great conviction. And I just, once she left my room, I just decided there and then that I'm going to go to God completely. Because as I mentioned earlier, I could feel life like being drained out of me from the life I was living. I could feel death all around me. I was getting sick every 3 or 4 weeks. So I just knew that if I don't get on this bus right now, it's going to be the end. So I just decided there and then to give my life to God. And I went on my Instagram. I deleted all of the lustful content I was posting. I went on TikTok. I deactivated my account. And I just went into a period of isolation where I didn't meet any of my friends. Because I had friends who were into a whole lot of stuff, like even worse than I was, promiscuity, hooking up, drugs, all of that stuff. And God had to separate me from them, and I was in isolation for many months by myself. And in that time, God was just basically resetting me to factory settings. Basically, He was basically what's the word I'm looking for? Consecrating me for what He wants to use me for. So He was putting the old me to death while bringing up the new me through His Spirit, through His grace. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because I was addicted to so many things. I was stuck in so many cycles of sin that the journey was not easy at all. The journey was not easy. But by God's grace, He saved me from all of that. I had to, delete Tinder, delete every dating app I was on. I wasn't meeting anyone. Like, I actually realized that most of the contacts on my phone were people I hooked up with. Like, there were more of them than friends and family combined, substantial. So I basically, that wasn't easy as well, them getting in touch with me, wanting to meet up. Because before I would just, yeah, when are you free? But now I had to deny that part of me and be like, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. And God did not just make me deny that I wasn't doing that anymore. He made me tell them
Never want to anymore.
that I had given my life to God. And I said, yeah, now I'm not a Christian, I now follow God. I can't do these things anymore. So, and they were like, what do you mean? Like, what's going on?
They must have been confused.
They were so confused. Honestly, like, it's so interesting because one day I was posting thirst trapping videos on like Instagram, and then a week later I was posting about Jesus. They're like, what is going on here? Like, they were so confused, and I was confused myself because I was like, absolutely. And before I even started posting about God on my Instagram, God had, because I have this place where I go to worship God in my room, and as I was worshiping God, God told me, you have to start posting about me on Instagram. Like, I don't want to do that because most of my followers on Instagram
know
me for this. Like, this is a complete U-turn. I'm gonna lose all the followers. It's just gonna be like a downward spiral. And then God was like, you have to do it because some of these people are where they are because you contributed to them being there. So you have to. So you have to help them come out of it because they are where they are because of you.
That is so deep.
Yeah. So I said to myself, okay, I have to do this. So deep. Honestly, I have to do this because that's when I started realizing that it's not about me anymore. It's about others. It's about God using me to save other people. So I just started making Christian content, and people were messaging me saying, what's going on? Like, are you okay? And everyone was asking, are you okay? They thought I had gone crazy. They were like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Because it was like, it didn't make sense for someone to go from...
I'm imagining it doesn't.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense as well. And to me, it didn't make sense either, but I just had to walk by faith and not by sight. I just had to do what God wanted me to do because I knew that in as much as I don't understand why he's asking me to do this stuff, he knows the end from the beginning. He knows what he wants to accomplish from asking me to do this. So I started doing that. And I must say, I lost a lot of followers. Like, I had close to almost 40,000 followers, and now I have about 24,000 because people keep on following because they're like, I don't know who this guy is anymore. Like, I followed him for his test trap. Now he's not doing that anymore. But then again, on the flip side, I've had a few people reach out to me and tell me how inspired they are and how they've decided to give their life to God as a result of the transformation they've seen in me. So I feel like sometimes God will use you not for the many, but for the few, for the one or the two that have the desire for truth.
And you know what's so crazy about that? Me included, I'm speaking to myself. We're so desperate to reach the many that we deny the few.
Yes. Because even the Bible says that, talking about heaven and hell, that wide is the road that leads to destruction, and many will find it, but narrow is the one that leads to eternal life, and the few will find it. So I had to break myself out of that appeasing the many mentality because that's what I was used to for so long. I was used to, making content that millions of people will like, and now I had to focus on the 5 or 6 people compared to the millions I was reaching before, and that took me months to get to resisting what God was telling me to do to actually doing it, because I was so worried about what people would think of me, what people will say, and all of that. But I came to a place where I was grounded in who I was in God, that my validation did not come from these people anymore. It came from God and God alone. So it did not matter anymore to me that I may lose followers. I will not get all of those millions of views anymore. It mattered to me what would please God more than anything else. So that's when I got the confidence to actually start, posting Christian content. And like now, sometimes I post content and they get like 20 likes compared to like almost 200,000 that I used to get before. And sometimes I look at it and just laugh, but then I realize that it's actually better to, like, how do I say it? Those 200,000 likes I got were for the wrong reasons. They were sending people to hell. They were keeping people stuck in bondage, in lust, in all manner of dangerous cycles that they were stuck in. But what I'm making now is actually setting people free. It doesn't matter how many people it reaches. It matters that it reaches someone, even if it's one person. That's all that matters, So I started learning how to be obedient to God and just do what He wants me to do, even when it doesn't make sense. So, but yeah, and I'm still going through that journey because yeah, it's not been easy. But Bible says you have to take up your cross daily. So I'm still taking up my cross daily, and God has been with me all through. So yeah, we thank God.
Wow.
Thank God.
I think what's most interesting about your transformation story is that, I don't know, I think I sort of expected a big, grand, sort of fancy, sort of before to after. But it was just, your sister sits you down,
Yeah.
says a couple words, and then you're like, fine.
Yeah.
And it's just a choice, like a raw, fine. Okay, hands down, I start from now.
Yeah. I feel like God had been preparing me for that moment. Because even when I came out of the gym, I was so thankful. A peace, like God's peace, came over me. That was also in preparation for
When you got home.
when I got home to have that discussion with my sister. So when she was telling me these things, it was more of a confirmation, like a stamp to everything else that had happened before. So yeah, she did not understand, like she didn't understand the gravity of what she was telling me. She was just telling me stuff that didn't make sense to her. But to me it made so much sense. Like God will reveal a message to you through someone, and the message won't make any sense to the person delivering it. But to you, it will make so much sense. Like God will use words that doesn't make sense to the person delivering the message, but to you it will be like the missing piece
Revelation,
in the puzzle.
And in most cases, I found the person delivering the message doesn't even realize they're delivering the message. They're just talking casually.
They're just talking. They have no idea what they're talking about. But you know, okay, yeah, this is definitely from God. Because when God sends you a message, it comes with a conviction. So both of them marry to become this thing. So yeah, I gave my life to Christ in January of 2023. And then I got baptized in April of that same year. And so far I've been on a journey. And like God has shown me so many things He wants to use me for, but I just need to, like, sometimes I struggle with guilt, with shame and self-condemnation because of all the things I have done in my past. And sometimes I sit to make videos, and sometimes that self-condemnation creeps up, thinking, who do you think you are to tell people to be better? Like, considering the things you've done. But this is why it's essential for people who have come to Christ to read the Bible, because that's when you get to understand God's promises, like God's favor upon your life. The fact that when you come to Christ, you are no longer bound by sin. You are a new creature. You're born again. All things have passed away, and everything has become new. So, having that knowledge helped me overcome all of the, all of the self-condemnation that the enemy was trying to use to either draw me back to what God saved me from, or to stop me from moving forward in a pace that God wants me to. So yeah, and honestly, like, life is not, how do I say this? It's an ongoing process. It's not like a happily ever after. In as much as God has saved me from everything that used to keep me in bondage,
It's still constant development.
it's still constant development, because temptations still come up. Like, you still have to deal with temptations. You'll come across something, you see something on TV, interactions. Like, sometimes, especially because I go to the gym, there are people at the gym and wearing next to nothing, and you have to work out with them. You have to be in the same space with them, and you just have to learn to avert your eyes. You just have to learn to. And talking about averting your eyes, it's so interesting because one day I was just in my car driving, thinking, God, I just don't want to look at people with lust anymore. Like, do I have to fast? Do I have to, pray for how many days? And God and the Holy Spirit just said, all you have to do is just avert your eyes. And I thought, okay, I expected more, because that is just a very simple solution. And sometimes the solution to the problem is not as big as we make it. It's just literally taking the littlest of steps towards the right direction. It may seem inconsequential when you start doing it, but in the long run, you will see that actually, you've formed a habit of overcoming.
Before it's even started.
Exactly.
And I think the issue is like what you're saying as well, is that we tend to think that only big solutions work for big problems.
Exactly.
But sometimes the bigger the problem, the smaller the solution.
Honestly, sometimes it's just the littlest things. It's just the little, like even I'm not sure if it was Elijah in the Bible, that said God, please kill me. I can't deal with this anymore. Just take my life. And God just told him, go to sleep. Like, go and rest, just sleep, and then he went, took a nap, woke up and felt better. Like sometimes it's not some big exactly. It's literally the smallest things, and it's just those little things put into practice that helps you become better. Like avert your eyes, be conscious of the thoughts that come into your mind and hold them captive. Just all those little things help you overcome it. I mean, at first it may be difficult. It may feel like it's not going anywhere. But if you keep doing it, you form a cycle of doing it. And when you form a cycle of doing it, you kind of overcome whatever it was. So, it's just about taking those little steps. And I thank God for where I am today. And I'm very excited for what he's going to use me for in the future, because I just know it's going to be very big, very big. As long as I keep walking in faith and I keep being obedient to him and not try to because sometimes I try to tell God how to be God in a way. Like I try to say, but I think this would be better. You know,
you should do that.
and then God is like, no, I know best. So so I just need to learn to surrender more. And I feel like when I surrender more, God will then raise me, because there's a verse in the Bible that says God raises those
themselves, be humble, and
so that verse is very practical, because I'm learning to be more submissive to God, because I came from a place where I was like, like this, I don't want to say pimp, but I was basically like dictating people's lives. Like I got them obsessed with me. Like they would do whatever I wanted them to do. And then just having to come to a place where I completely surrender that power completely, and just say, God, I'm at your feet. Just let your will be done. That is not easy, but I'm learning on a daily basis to trust him more, because he knows what's best for me more than I do. So even though it may feel uncomfortable in the moment, but I have to trust in the end game. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've actually run out of time. We've got 3 minutes.
It's fine.
Wow.
It's okay.
How do you feel now?
I feel good. Yeah, I feel good.
That was a strong one.
Yeah. It was a strong one. That was a good one. Yeah.
I will let you close up the episode.
Okay.
And you can talk directly to people.
Right.
I would ask if you can close up by talking to someone directly, someone who looks at you, and sees themselves.
Yes. So I know that there are many people out there who profess to be Christians, but still find themselves struggling. Struggling with sin, with masturbation, with pornography. People who find themselves stuck in cycles of lust and all manner of perversion. And they think to themselves, I can't save myself. I don't think I'll ever be free from this. You just have to know that there's nothing God cannot do. And if you come to God, he can set you free from whatever you're going through. It doesn't matter how far gone you think, it doesn't matter what's the word I'm looking for?
How lost, how far gone you think.
It doesn't matter how far gone you think. Honestly, like once you trust God, there's nothing God cannot do. And I feel like this is what I struggled with before coming to God. So I would say you are not far gone. There's no sin too great that God cannot forgive. And God is always waiting to receive us back. He says he stands at the door and knock. So all I can say to you is that trust God. Like just come to God don't try and fix yourself first, because I used to tell myself, you know what, I'll try and stop doing so many things before coming to God, but I couldn't do that. Only God can do that. So I would just say, if there's anything you get out of this, just know that God can save you from whatever you're going through. God can save you from your addiction, from your depression, from your anxiety. Friends cannot save you from it. Drugs won't save you. Drinking, clubbing, hooking up, all of that are just, a mirage. And the only thing that can save you is Jesus and Jesus alone. Because I have tried and I have tasted and seen what God can do. So I would say give Jesus a try, and you will not regret it. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you for giving me the chance to basically give an insight into some of the things God saved me from. I feel like even when I was talking about it, I could feel there were moments of resistance, like, oh, should I really say that? But I feel like everything is to God's glory. The testimony is to God's glory. And I feel like the more honest and open I am about these things, the more relatable it is to people who are going through the same thing. And that's all that matters to me. Right now, how people may see me from knowing the things I used to do doesn't matter to me anymore, because I know what God is going to use my testimony to do, and that matters more to me than anything else. So yeah.
Well, I want to thank you too, because that was a very deep, honest, vulnerable.
Yeah.
It took a lot of courage.
It did. Yeah.
To be as honest, and I don't take that lightly. Especially knowing that we don't even know each other.
Exactly.
A lot of people that I know, we've been friends beforehand, so it's been easier to maybe. But I've met you for the first time.
Exactly.
So even sort of saying to basically a stranger takes even more courage than what's normal. So I want to thank and honor you for that, man. And
Thank you.
I am inspired. I'm inspired. I'm sort of lost for words. I'm still sort of processing everything that you said, and how what you said even relates to me as well. So
yeah, we thank God. We thank God. We thank God. We give God the glory.
And I think that is the end of this episode.
Yay.